I have been using the Amaran 60DS for over 3 months now, so I have a pretty good idea about what it can and can't do. It's a tiny light that packs a big punch, and in general, I really like it. However, there's also a safety concern I really need to talk about. But first, let me tell you about the light. And I'm gonna be pointing up here a lot because I'm using the Amaran right now. Now, I just have the one Amaran light, but I also have 4 Godox SL-60W lights in my collection. However, the Godox lights are older and also pretty noisy. The fans make a lot of noise to the point where it was sometimes kind of obvious in my audio tracks. So I wanted to buy a quieter light to use as my key light without spending a whole ton of money. Aputure's Amaran 60DS sounded like it was a perfect fit. And the portability of the light was a plus, but mostly I planned to just set it up and leave it. By the way, Aputure did not send me this light. They don't even know I'm reviewing this. I paid for this light myself, and I am under no obligation to give it a good review. Now, first off, the 60D, and I'm gonna be referring to this light either as the 60D or the 60DS all throughout this review. It's the same thing, but the 60D, it's quieter than the Godox lights, but it is by no means silent. I do still hear some faint fan noise sneaking into my audio if I've got a mic too close to it. Yes, it's an improvement for sure, but just keep that in mind if you're shopping for a light. It's not completely silent. And right now it is really, really hot. Just like the rest of the Northern Hemisphere, it is sweltering in here right now. And if light manufacturers are gonna put fans in their lights, why don't they have them pointed at me? And while this light is quieter than the Godox's, it's also brighter, even though they're both considered 60-watt lights. With the hyper reflector attached, which is just a mini reflector, it's way brighter than the Godox. And when using it with a softbox, the difference isn't quite as noticeable, but it's still there. But for my purposes, I don't need a ton of power, so this is just perfect for my studio. This version, the 60DS, is a fixed 5600 Kelvin light, which just means it's daylight temperature. Aputure also sells the 60XS, which has both daylight and tungsten options. So the 60D has a Bowen-style mounting system for attaching modifiers like softboxes, which is a pretty common standard. I usually have a 2-foot by 2-foot Godox softbox mounted on it, which is also Bowen's compatible and works just fine. In fact, I initially had a concern about using this softbox with the 60D. The light is so, well, light. I was worried the softbox might be too heavy and damage the light somehow. I contacted Aputure about it and they said, no problem. It can handle their 45 centimeter softbox easily, and that one weighs about the same as my softbox, and honestly, I've had no problems. Now, the light comes in a rather odd box. It's shaped like a hard case, it looks like a hard case, it has a handle, but it's made out of some sort of styrofoam. I'm not sure how durable this would be over the long term, but my other lights didn't come with a case at all, so I guess it's a win. In the box, you get a protective cover to put over the LED when you're not using it. You also get the hyper reflector. Now, without the reflector, the light has a very wide spread, about 108 degrees. With the reflector on, it's much tighter, a 14-degree spread, or at least that's what the specs say. There's no way that that's 14 degrees. It is way wider than that. I don't know, maybe they're talking about the hotspot in the middle, but anyway, that's not 14 degrees. You also get a diffuser to put over it, which looks like a tiny shower cap that might fit Baby Yoda or something like that. And since the reflector is so small, a diffuser over the front is not going to do very much to soften your light unless you're really close to the light. As you can see here though, it does spread out that hot spot, but at the expense of losing the hard edge of the reflector if you needed that hard edge. You get a 1/4" 20 mounting pin, and I'm going to talk about that particular issue later, but that pin goes into an umbrella stand adapter, and with that you can adjust the angle of the light, and as the name implies, you can insert an umbrella if you want. And this is the part that you actually attach to your light stand. You also get a battery plate, which takes 2 Sony NPF style batteries. By the way, the batteries are not included. You'll have to get those on your own. That turns this light into a very portable, very powerful light you can take anywhere. To test that out, Finn and I took this light on a little field trip. Now, I'm lazy, so I just threw the light in the back of the car, still attached to the softbox. Setup was really simple and quick. You just slap it on a light pole and hold it down with a sandbag and you're good to go. The batteries click into the plate clicks into the light, and then you attach the power cord. That is basically it. I was running it at 60% here, and it's plenty bright. Finn also pointed out that the whole setup, light and softbox, is light enough to handhold if you got an assistant. There's a knob on the back to control the brightness, and you can push it to cycle through common percentages, 20, 40, 60, etc. But you can also control the 60D via Bluetooth using the Sidus app. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's S-I-D-U-S. With that app, you can control multiple lights in your setup if you have them. And you also get access to some special effects. Here, I'll show you real quick. This is the fireworks effect. And this is the paparazzi effect. And this is the pulsing effect for when you were abducted by aliens. Now this simulates a TV playing off screen, and it kind of adjusts the brightness as if scenes were changing on the TV. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense with my light up here, but it could be useful. And this is lightning, which you can either run automatically or you can trigger it. And this simulates a faulty old light bulb cutting in and out. So that's safety concern. Now, this only becomes an issue if you use the light in a very specific way. And many people won't need to worry about it, but let me explain. Now, I prefer butterfly or loop lighting for my videos, and to get that look, the light needs to be almost directly in front of me like it is now. However, if I stick a light on a stand, I have to put the stand out of the frame, otherwise it's going to be right there in the frame, so I've got to move it to the side. This moves the light over way too far, and I end up with Rembrandt lighting. That's fine if you want a very dramatic look, but that's not what I'm going for. So to get loop lighting, I need to use a boom of some sort to put the light more directly above me while keeping the pole out of the shot. That's where the safety issue could crop up. Remember that 1/4-20 mounting pin? That screws directly into the light. And this is handy because it means you can mount your light directly onto a tripod if you needed to, but it also means that if you mount this light sideways rather than upright, it has the potential to unscrew itself. The weight of your softbox could torque the light sideways and down, and your light could drop. That would be very bad. Now, if I boom the light from the camera left like I'm doing now, the weight of the softbox actually tightens the screw. In fact, when I first set this up, I found my light would slowly droop downwards as the screw tightened under the weight of the softbox. But now it's on there so tightly that the light no longer moves. But if you boom this from camera right, gravity is going to loosen that connection. That's where you're going to have problems. Having that 1/4-20 connection makes the light more flexible, for sure. But given how I use it, I would gladly give up that 1/4-20 in exchange for greater security. If you look at the Godox light here, it clamps to a pin very securely, and as long as this is tight, you can mount this light in any direction. And in fact, most studio lights mount like the Godox lights do, and they're very secure. Now, if you're just using the Amaran on an upright light stand, none of this is going to be a problem for you. Just keep this issue in mind if you ever get tempted to boom the 60D. The light sells for about $170, which is really pretty reasonable. And if you want more info or you want to check current prices, I've included an affiliate link in the video notes below. And if you're watching this on a TV, here's a QR code that you can scan. Now, earlier I talked about different lighting styles such as loop lighting and Rembrandt lighting, and if you're new to lighting, you might be scratching your head about that a little bit. Well, guess what? I've made a video all about how you can get the exact lighting look you want, and you can watch that right here.
So sit down,